A yellowed moon, like a great jaundiced eye, peeks over the horizon. A giant watching slugs crawl in the darkness. Its sickly moonbeams cut swaths of pale light through black forest, illuminating the road ahead where the mob's flickering torches failed. Yet the wrath of these villagers burned hotter than any torch. They were out for monsters. Ahead, perched on a jutting finger of rock like a great unsleeping bird of prey, the House of Night, the Chateau of Dark Magic, the Keep of the Lord of the Dark, Castle Dracula. Even for all their rage after all their loss, the sight of that wretched prison of every unholy thing tore the breaths from their very bodies. The group of pitchforked farmers and poorly armed townsfolk paused, soundless, in awe. Their collective eyes looked up and up and up, took in the twisted spires, the impregnable buttresses, the rooks and bulwarks carved of ebon hellstone. The tallest tower lit with a single window, a fire burning high and lonely in some forbidden room. And still, that was not the top. For in the heart of every warm-blooded man and woman come out that night to wreak their vengeance on the vampire, blood ran cold to spy a second castle perched atop the first, inverted, reversed, upside down, parapet, steeple, and belfry meeting at their uppermost points. The flipped facade of Dracula took evil and upended it into chaos, as if by the illusion of some diabolical mirror. This is Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and what we've just described for you is Dracula's inverted castle. Also known as the reverse castle, persevering players assuming the role of Alucard will discover an upside-down castle where everything is reversed, a house of horrors befitting Alucard's own inverted name. There, the architecture is mirrored, providing a whole new and yet familiar experience, invented solely to provide more content and challenges for would-be vampire hunters. After all, what could confound a stormer of any castle more than the backward logic of upside-down barbicans, drawbridges, hallways, dungeons, and oubliettes? Or a better question yet, despite the fact that Koga Igarashi admitted the inverted castle was just an easy way to add more content without creating new assets, are there any real inverted castles which Dracula could have taken inspiration from? Examining castles from across history and mythology, I found several names, maybe a dozen, that claimed hidden rooms, secret passageways, mad architects, or clever anecdotes exhibiting reversed architecture and furniture. Only a few of them seemed to have any significant merit, whereas most seemed most interested in the tourist trade. Here are 3 examples of inverted castles and reverse architecture to match Castle Dracula and Symphony of the Night. Without any explicit statement from the game's developers, we're not claiming these served as the inspiration for the inverted castle, but clearly the idea has been out there for a long, long time. Note, we're skipping over Bran Castle, located in Transylvania, the supposed real Dracula's castle. This is another tourist destination with no historical attachment either to Bram Stoker or Vlad the Impaler. So grab your favorite drink, ease back, and let's begin.
Rest is good for the blood.
Our first example of an inverted castle is the mystical Scholomance. Though purely mythological and not at all historical, it is in fact mentioned in Stoker's seminal novel that launched the modern image of the vampire, Dracula. Stoker mentions the Scholomance not once, but twice.
The Draculas were, says Arminius, a great and noble race, though now and again were scions who were held by their coevals to have had dealings with the Evil One. They learned his secrets in the Scholomance, amongst the mountains over Lake Hermannstadt, where the devil claims the 10th scholar as his due.
Located in Transylvania as well, deep beneath the Carpathian Mountains, the Scholomance was a Romanian school of black magic, said to trace its origins back to the biblical King Solomon. The Solomonari who study in the Scholomance would learn the languages of animals and the secrets of nature. They might become weather wizards and dragon riders, but since wise old Solomon's day, the devil was said to have become the principal of this occultic school. This inverse of a real school, where the light of learning is replaced by the darkest of denizens, was much worse than the wizarding Hogwarts of Harry Potter, if that's what you're thinking of. While students would be recruited in batches of 7, 10, or 13, one from each class would be doomed to never leave the Scholomance again, the price of forbidden knowledge. But the 9 heretics that survived would possess sorceress abilities that none on Earth could match. Descriptions of the Scholomance's architecture are vague. As such, literal spatial inversion in the Dark School isn't as important as the figurative and interpretive. It was a school without windows, within the subterranean, indeed buried beneath the mountain rather than built on top of it. Locked in darkness rather than representing the light of knowledge. This school entrapped students forever rather than set them free. It represented a descent instead of an ascent. It was morality reversed. Unlike the mythological school of mystics, Huska Castle is a very real historical place, though it is also touched by its own legends. Located in the Liberec region of the Czech Republic, it was built in the latter half of the 13th century by Ottokar II of Bohemia. It was initially intended to be administrative in its duties and purpose, but its final fate proved to be far more infernal. It is said that Huska Castle was built right over the top of a pit. This pit in the ground was a private gateway to hell. During the 1940s, it's said that the Nazis conducted experiments in the occult there. What were they doing with a hole in the ground? I don't know, but that makes mine uncomfortable. Although you can book a flight, buy a ticket, and visit Huska Castle today for yourself, touring the haunted house is likely not going to land you an exclusive with any leering demons or hideous half-human, half-animal hybrids, the kind which were said to have crawled out of the hole in the past. The pit itself is located in the chapel, but the place has been put under careful scrutiny by several documentaries. Still, the stories tickle the imagination. One desperate lord is said to have promised pardons to any criminal facing the death sentence if they would but allow themselves to be lowered into the hole by a rope to sate the curious minds of their era. A man indeed volunteered. They secured the rope about him. He hung over the pit, stared down into the eye of darkness, and slowly they lowered him, inch by inch, until his body disappeared. But immediately he began to scream like a child in the night. They hauled him up as fast as they could. To their horror and dismay, they found that their poor guinea pig had aged decades in the span of seconds. The man's hair had gone white. His skin, blotched with liver spots, hung in sagging wrinkles from his skeleton. His eyes drooped, filled with an eternal fear. To keep whatever was at the bottom of the bottomless pit from getting out, it is said that the curious features of the house of Huska Castle are inverted, in the sense that they point inward instead of outward. Castles were typically built to keep those from the outside getting in, yet I read about doors barred from the outside to prevent things on the inside from getting out. Huska Castle, the site of a portal to hell or not? Let me know what your verdict is in the comments section and if you'd ever visit the next time you're in Prague. Our last stop on our quest for reverse castles takes us to the Templar. I encountered this story thanks to the BBC. In it, there's an article entitled The Mysterious Inverted Tower Steeped in Templar Myth. Imagine a tower, if you would, tall, straight-sided, perhaps with a room of great importance at its top where a wizard ponders his orb. Now invert it. Instead of a tower, you wind up with a well, with spiraling stairs leading down instead of up, its magic taken from the clouds to the caverns. Located in Sintra, Portugal, the Quinta da Regaliera World Heritage Site boasts an astounding palace, an impressive chapel, a gorgeous garden of water and fountains. It also features 2 initiatic wells, also known as inverted towers. It's possible that one of the past owners of the estate was a member of the Templar himself. Now, these twin wells were never intended to bear water. Their concerns were with ceremonial ritual. The bigger of the 2 wells has ancient stone steps and a 27-meter spiral stair of 9 flights, 9 for the founders of the Knights Templar. It's possible that the spiral stairs suggest a mystical meaning as well, a descent into death and reincarnation. The 9 circles of hell, going from outside the Brotherhood and then being reborn within it. Likewise, rightward as opposed to leftward, or clockwise as opposed to counterclockwise spirals, were said to represent construction, manifestation, and harmony, in contrast with deconstruction, inversion, and introversion. At the bottom lies 2 symbols, the compass and the Templar's cross, an icon of direction and an icon of martyrdom, another symbol of death. The initiation involved blindfolding the initiate and compelling them to descend the well's stairs without the gift of sight, carrying a naked sword against their breast. And you thought running with scissors was dangerous. Once at the bottom, the initiate would then have to traverse a labyrinth of mazes to symbolically and literally find the path back to the light. Once at the surface and in the chapel again, only then could they be welcomed into the secret brotherhood of the Knights Templar. It's easy to see how inverted castles, reversed architecture, and mirrored mansions can capture the imagination, although they're rarely practical when constructing a castle. Castles, after all, were buildings typically intended to serve practical purposes, and upside-down architecture isn't very practical. Unless you're a vampire, I guess. Although examples of stories regarding hidden chambers with upside-down features, or tales of mirrored halls intended to confuse trespassers abound, no true inverted castle has been discovered in history, yet. Perhaps the perverse realities of Castle Dracula are far too malevolent for this plane of existence. Happy Halloween. Now there's a phrase rich with mythological and theological origin, but that is a story for another day.